Petitioners are demanding the return of 125 million pesos confidential funds used by the Office of the Vice President or OVP in 2022. Among those who asked the Supreme Court to declare as unconstitutional the transfer of the funds include 1987 Constitution framer Christian Monsod, former COMELEC Commissioner Gas Lagman, former spokesperson of former Vice President Leni Robredo Barry Gutierrez, and former Finance Undersecretary Shelo Magno. They argue the transfer of funds from the Office of the President's Contingency Fund to the OVP as confidential funds is an exercise of legislative power that exclusively belongs to the Congress.
Kung ginagamit yung augmentation para maiwasan yung full audit ng COA, ang laki ng danger na maaabuso itong ganitong kalakaran.
The sovereign people may karapatan na itanong, paano ba niyong ginastos ang pera namin?
Dahil hindi lang po right ng mamamayan ito, kundi obligasyon din po na pansinin natin ang ginagawa ng mga public officials. Dahil tayo po nagpapasweldo sa kanila.
Based on the General Appropriations Act of 2022, there's a heading on confidential, intelligence, and extraordinary expenses, and a particular item with an appropriation for extraordinary and miscellaneous expenses of the OVP. But there's no item or appropriation for confidential or intelligence expenses. For the petitioners, there's a clear violation of the intent of Congress not to create an item on confidential expenses, when the Budget Department released 221.42 million pesos to OVP, including the 125 million pesos for confidential funds.
Sa 6 na taon ni Leni Robredo as Vice President, never humingi at never binigyan ng confidential or intelligence funds.
They point out what the Budget Department did was a clear usurpation of the legislative power of Congress to create and fund an item that has not been done so by Congress. According to the Office of the Executive Secretary, the release of confidential funds is in compliance with Special Provision Number 1 under the 2022 Contingent Fund, which authorizes the Office of the President to approve releases to fund new or urgent activities or projects that need to be implemented or paid. Petitioners argue the OVP's 2022 confidential funds are not included. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman has explained, since the money came from the Contingent Fund, which is managed by DBM, it can't be considered as transfer but release. Named respondents are Vice President Sara Duterte, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin, and Pangandaman. Are these grounds for impeachment?
Well, that's left to the discretion of Congress or the Department of Justice, depending on yung magiging outcome.
It's now up to the so-called gods of Padre Faro to rule on the OVP's confidential funds. 13 of them are appointees of the father of the Vice President. Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.